In a busy town named Aitu, life was always full of color. The marketplace rang with the sound of drums, children's laughter, and the smell of roasted yam and spicy pepper soup. Every evening, people gathered under the tall iroko tree to tell stories, sing, and share wisdom from the elders. In Aitu, fame was not measured by wealth or beauty but by how much good you did for others. People believed that one person's joy was everyone's joy, and one person's sorrow was shared by all. Among the young people of the town was a girl named Adiz. She was beautiful, with a voice so sweet that even the birds stopped singing to listen when she sang. From when she was little, Adiz dreamed of becoming famous. She wanted people not only in Aitu but in faraway lands to know her name. While others were happy to sing in the evenings just for fun, Adiz wanted more. She longed for the big stage, flashing lights, and people screaming her name. Her mother often told her, "Child, your voice is a gift from the ancestors. Use it to bring peace, not pride." But Adiz would only smile and say, "Mama, one day I will sing before thousands, and they will chant my name like the stars sing in the sky." Life in the village continued peacefully. Farmers tilled their land, hunters returned with bushmeat, and children ran barefoot in the dust. At night, the elders told folktales about spirits, tricksters, and those who lost their way because of greed. Everyone listened carefully because each tale carried a warning. But Adiz, though she listened, always thought, "That will never be me. I will get what I want and nothing bad will happen." Then one evening something unusual happened. A stranger arrived in Aitu. He was dressed in black, with eyes so sharp they seemed to pierce into the soul of anyone who looked at him. He carried a long staff and walked with the grace of someone who was not entirely human. People whispered that he was not from their land, that perhaps he came from the spirit world. His name, he said, was Orji. Orji stood at the center of the market and declared, "I have come to give one among you what they truly desire. Wealth, fame, power, anything. But only one must be chosen." The townspeople looked at one another in fear. They were not greedy people, and the offer felt dangerous. But Adiz's heart beat fast. "This is my chance," she thought. She stepped forward before anyone else could speak. "I want to be famous," Adiz said boldly, her voice ringing through the crowd. "I want to sing before the world. I want my name to be remembered forever." The market fell silent. Mothers shook their heads, children clutched their mothers' wrappers, and the elders muttered under their breath. They knew no gift from a stranger like Orji came without a price. Still, Adiz's eyes glittered with desire. Orji smiled slowly, revealing teeth too sharp to be human. "Fame is a heavy thing to carry, child," he said. "But if you are ready to give what is most precious, I can give you what you seek." Adiz swallowed. "What must I give?" Orji leaned closer, his voice low and chilling. "Your soul." The crowd gasped. Her mother cried out, "Adiz, do not agree. No fame is worth your soul." But Adiz was blinded by her dream. "If that is the price I accept," she whispered. The stranger's eyes glowed red, and he touched her forehead with his staff. For a moment the sky darkened and the air grew cold. Then, as quickly as it came, the strange presence lifted. Adiz stood taller, her voice burning inside her like fire, more powerful than ever. The people stared in silence, some in fear, others in pity. Adiz only smiled, believing she had finally been chosen for greatness. But deep inside the ancestors stirred. The harmony of Aitu had been broken, and they knew a storm was coming. And on that night, as the drums of the village echoed, the first shadow of trouble began to creep into Adiz's path. The sun rose over Aitu the next morning, spreading golden light across the red earth. Life seemed normal. The goats bleated, the women pounded yam in their mortars, and the men prepared for work in the fields. But deep in the air something felt different. It was as if a silent drumbeat was echoing beneath the ground, carrying an omen that only the spirits could hear. Adiz woke up with a strange fire in her chest. Her voice sounded richer, louder, and stronger than before. When she sang, Her little mud house shook as if the walls themselves wanted to dance. She rushed outside and sang by the well, and people passing by stopped in awe. Even those who had heard her sing since she was a child looked at her with wide eyes. "Adise, your voice. It is like 10 drums playing at once," one old man said, trembling. Soon word spread through Aitu that Adise had been touched by something powerful. Some people admired her, while others whispered about the dangerous pact she had made. But Adise only felt joy. "This is the beginning of my greatness," she told herself. A few weeks later, travelers came to the village. They were merchants from the city, carrying bags of beads, cloth, and strange instruments. They heard Adise sing and invited her to perform at a festival in the nearby town. Her heart leapt. At last, she would sing beyond Aitu. Her mother, however, knelt before her and pleaded, "My child, do not go. Fame is a river with strong waves. You may be swept away. Remember the price you paid." But Adise brushed her aside. "Mama, this is my destiny. I cannot hide in this village forever. I will make you proud." When the festival day came, Adise's performance shook the crowd. Her voice soared higher than the talking drums, stronger than the horns, and sweeter than the flutes. People wept and cheered, calling her name. "Adise! Adise! Adise!" For the first time, she felt the fame she had dreamed of. Soon, her name spread across villages. She was invited to bigger festivals, then to cities. Crowds filled the air with chants and praises. Merchants offered her gifts, chiefs invited her into their palaces, and young men begged to marry her. Adise had everything she thought she wanted. But something strange began to happen. At night she had terrible dreams. She saw dark figures dancing around her, whispering her name in mocking tones. Sometimes when she looked into a mirror, her reflection blinked even when she did not. One night she heard Orji's voice echo in her ears. "Fame is yours, child. But remember, your soul belongs to me." Adise woke up sweating, her heart beating fast. She tried to dismiss it, but she could not shake the feeling that something terrible was waiting. Still she pushed forward, chasing greater fame. At last, she was invited to perform at the biggest concert the land had ever seen. People from faraway villages traveled for days just to watch her sing. The stadium was packed, the drums thundered, and the air buzzed with excitement. As Adise walked onto the stage, her gown shining like fire, the crowd screamed with joy. She lifted her voice, and the earth seemed to tremble. But in the middle of her song, something began to change. Her voice grew too deep, too sharp, almost inhuman. The crowd's cheers turned into uneasy murmurs. Then the lights flickered. Shadows crept along the walls. Adise felt her throat burn as if fire lived inside her. The people stared at her, and some began to scream. Her eyes reflected red like burning coal. The fans who once adored her began to run, trampling over each other to escape. The concert that was meant to crown her fame had turned into chaos. And as the last scream echoed in the night, Adise realized her soul's price was beginning to show itself. The morning after the concert was heavy with silence. The once celebrated Adise sat in her big city house, staring at her trembling hands. Her voice, the very thing she had sold her soul for, now frightened people. The image of fans screaming and fleeing the stadium played over and over in her head. The cheers she had craved had turned to terror. News spread quickly. Some said she was possessed. Others swore they saw horns forming on her head when she sang. Rumors flew from one village to another until even the elders of Aitu heard of it. Her mother came to the city to see her. She carried only a small calabash filled with palm oil and a kola nut, symbols of peace. "My child," she said softly, her eyes full of tears, "I warned you. Fame gained through darkness will never bring peace. You must find a way to break the pact." Adise shook her head. "Mama, how? Orji owns my soul. If I stop singing, I am nothing. If I continue, the world will run from me." Her mother placed the kola nut in her hand. "The ancestors do not abandon their children. Go back to Aitu. Speak with the elders. Seek the wisdom of those who walk between the living and the spirits. Only then may you find a way out. That evening, Adiz left the glittering city lights and returned home. But Aitu was no longer the same. When she arrived, children ran away whispering, "It's her, the one who made people flee her concert." Some villagers refused to greet her. Only the Irako tree stood tall, its branches swaying as if to remind her of the stories she had ignored. The elders gathered that night in the moonlight. Their faces were serious as they listened to Adiz's confession. She told them of orgy, the bargain, and the horrors at the concert. When she finished, the oldest elder, Baba Uduak, spoke. His voice was deep like the beating of a drum. "Child, you have touched fire, and it has burned you. But all is not lost. The spirits gave humans freedom to choose, and though you chose wrongly, you may still fight for redemption. But the path will not be easy." Adiz leaned forward, desperate. "What must I do?" Baba Uduak's eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. "You must journey to the forest of whispers, where orgy draws his power. Along the way you will face trials that test your heart. If your spirit proves stronger than your greed, you may confront him and take back your soul. But beware. The forest does not forgive lies. Every step will reveal the truth you fear most." A shiver ran down Adiz's spine, but she nodded. "I will go." The elders gave her a small charm made of cowrie shells and feathers. "This will protect you only if your heart stays pure. Should greed or pride rise again, it will turn against you," Baba Uduak warned. The next morning, Adiz began her journey. She walked past farms, rivers, and dusty roads, each step taking her farther from the life of fame and closer to the unknown. At first, the path was quiet, almost peaceful. But soon, the forest loomed before her, thick, dark, and whispering secrets in voices that sounded half human, half spirit. Inside, shadows moved like living things. The trees twisted into strange shapes, and the wind carried eerie songs that sounded like her own voice mocking her. As night fell, Adiz reached a clearing. Suddenly, she saw figures emerge from the mist. They looked like her fans, clapping and cheering. Her heart leapt, until their faces melted into skulls, their cheers turning to screams. She stumbled backward, clutching the charm. The skull faces advanced, their bony fingers reaching for her. "Sing for us, Adiz, sing, or we will never leave," they hissed. Adiz's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs were frozen. The forest had already begun its trials, and her soul trembled on the edge of fear. The skull faces circled Adiz, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Their bony hands clapped in rhythm, demanding her voice. "Sing for us, sing for us." The whispers grew louder, echoing in the trees. Adiz's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but her feet were locked in place. The cowrie shell charm in her palm burned hot as if warning her. She remembered Baba Uduak's words. The forest does not forgive lies. Her first thought was to sing the way she always did. Strong, proud, commanding. But she knew that pride was what had brought her here. Instead, Adiz closed her eyes and whispered a soft song her mother had taught her when she was small. It was not a song for fame, but a lullaby of humility, one that mothers sang to their babies at night. Her voice trembled at first, but as she sang, the skull faces froze. Their clapping slowed, their glowing eyes dimmed. The forest grew quiet, listening. By the time her song ended, the figures dissolved into mist, leaving behind only silence. Adiz fell to her knees, shaking. "It worked," she whispered. But then the ground beneath her trembled. The mist swirled again, and this time a different figure appeared. It was a trickster spirit, a tall, thin man with painted face and long fingers that stretched like ropes. He wore a crooked grin and a hat made of feathers. His eyes gleamed with mischief. "Well done, little bird," he cackled, clapping his long fingers together. "You passed the first test. But tell me, do you really think you can take back your soul? Orgy is cleverer than all the elders of your village combined." Adiz stood slowly, clutching her charm. "I will try." The trickster spirit tilted his head. Try. Trying is for goats that want to fly. Let me help you. I know secret paths in this forest. I know the shortcuts to Orgy's den. All you must do is give me something in return. Adiz narrowed her eyes. What do you want? The spirit's grin widened. Not much. Just your voice. Only for a while. Lend it to me, and I will guide you safely. Adiz felt her stomach twist. Without her voice, who was she? It was her gift, her power. But she also remembered the warning. Every step will reveal the truth you fear most. The trickster spirit leaned closer. Come now. Without me, the forest will swallow you. With me, you will find Orgy before the next moon rises. Adiz hesitated. She thought about the fame she once desired, the faces of the fans who had once adored her, and the red-eyed stranger who claimed her soul. Then she thought about her mother's lullaby, the song that had saved her from the skullfaces. Finally, she shook her head. No, I will not give you my voice. If I lose it, I lose myself. I must walk this path with my own strength. The trickster spirit's smile dropped. His long fingers snapped like whips, and the air grew cold. So you choose the hard way. Very well. Then face the forest alone. He vanished into smoke, and at once the trees closed in tighter. The path ahead twisted like a serpent, and strange growls echoed from the shadows. Adiz tightened her grip on the charm and stepped forward. But as she moved deeper, the growls grew louder, until glowing eyes appeared in the dark. Wolves, huge, black, with teeth like knives, emerged from the shadows surrounding her. The first test had been about humility. This second one, she realized, would test her courage. The wolves snarled, preparing to leap. Adiz's breath quickened. She had no weapon, only her voice and the fragile charm in her hand. She knew that if fear consumed her now, the forest would devour her before she ever reached Orgy. And so, with the wolves circling closer, Adiz took a deep breath and prepared to face her next trial. The wolves circled Adiz, their growls vibrating through the dark forest. Their eyes glowed like coals, their teeth sharp as broken glass. She backed up until her shoulders pressed against a tree. There was nowhere to run. For a moment, fear gripped her chest so tightly she could not breathe. Her mind screamed, "This is the end." But then she remembered the lullaby. She remembered the way it had calmed the skullfaces, and she realized something. The wolves were not just animals. They were spirits, shaped by her own fear. Adiz pressed the charm to her lips and began to hum. The sound was shaky at first, but soon her hum grew steady, flowing like the quiet rhythm of a river. The wolves froze. Their growls softened to whimpers. One by one, they lowered their heads and backed away into the mist until only silence remained. Adiz let out a deep sigh and collapsed to her knees. She was alive. But the forest was not done with her yet. A path opened before her, lined with fireflies that glowed like tiny lamps. She followed it cautiously until she reached a large stone in the middle of a clearing. The stone pulsed faintly as though it were alive. On its surface, strange markings glowed. Adiz reached out to touch it, and at once the forest shifted. She was no longer in the clearing. Instead, she stood in a shadowy place where the ground was covered with bones. And in the distance she saw Orgy. His tall figure loomed, his staff glowing red. His voice was like thunder. "You dare come here, child. You dare challenge me for your soul." Adiz's knees trembled, but she stood tall. "I came to take back what I gave you." Orgy laughed, the sound echoing like breaking rocks. "You cannot undo what is sealed. Fame has already stained you. Every cheer, every praise, those were mine. You fed on what I gave, and now you must pay." Adiz clenched her fists. "I will not pay with my soul." Orgy's eyes narrowed. "Do you think you were the first? Many before you begged for greatness. And all of them belong to me in the end. Even your voice, it is mine." Something inside Adiz broke. She had always thought her gift was hers alone, but Orgy's words cut deep. "Was my singing never my own? Did I only borrow it from him? Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. It was soft, gentle, and familiar, her mother's. Child, your voice was given to you by the ancestors long before Orgy came. He only twisted it. He never created it. Dees turned. A glowing figure stood there. It was not her mother exactly, but a spirit that wore her mother's face. The spirit continued. The truth is this, Orgy feeds on greed. The more you sang for pride, the more power you gave him. But if you sing for truth and not for glory, his chains will weaken. Adi's eyes widened. This was the revelation the elders had spoken of. Her voice was not Orgy's. It never had been. It was hers, and it was meant for healing, not vanity. Orgy snarled, striking his staff into the ground. The bones around them rattled, and the earth cracked. Silence. Do not listen to her. Fame is yours, Adis. Embrace it, and I will make you greater than any singer the world has ever known. For the first time, Adis saw him clearly, not just as a powerful spirit, but as a deceiver. His promises were traps, his gifts poisoned. She looked down at the charm in her hand. The cowrie shells glowed brighter than before. Her choice was clear. Adis lifted her chin. I will not sing for fame anymore. I will sing for truth. The air shuddered. Orgy's smile twisted into rage. His body grew taller, his shadow spreading across the forest. Then you have chosen death. The ground split open beneath her feet, and a deep roar rose from below. Adis felt herself falling into darkness, Orgy's laughter echoing all around. Her journey had led her to the very heart of the bargain. And now she faced her darkest moment. Adis fell through the darkness, her scream swallowed by the roaring void. The air was hot, thick, and filled with whispers that tugged at her mind. She landed hard on the ground, her knees scraping against jagged stones. When she opened her eyes, she realized she was no longer in the forest. She was in a cavern deep beneath it, a place that smelled of fire, blood, and sorrow. Bones littered the ground, and the walls pulsed faintly like the inside of some great beast. In the distance, she saw a river of black water moving slowly, carrying faces that cried out in despair. Souls, trapped forever. Adis's breath caught. This is where Orgy keeps them. She heard a voice, soft but mocking. Do you see now, little bird? This is your future. Sing for me, and I may give you a place of honor among these voices. Refuse, and you will join them forgotten. Orgy stepped from the shadows, taller than before, his staff burning like a flame. His eyes glowed red, and his smile was wide and cruel. Adis trembled. The fire inside her chest flickered weakly. She remembered the cheering crowds, the lights, the applause. All of it seemed so small compared to the weight of this darkness. She thought of her mother, of Aitu, of the elders who had believed she could be strong. But now, facing Orgy here, she felt like a small child again. Her knees buckled, and she fell to the ground. Maybe I cannot win, she whispered. Orgy leaned closer, his voice like honey mixed with poison. At last you speak truth. No one escapes me. Give me your voice, and I will let you live in glory a little longer. Sing as you were meant to, my servant, my star. Adis's tears spilled. The cavern echoed with the cries of the trapped souls, each one begging for freedom. She covered her ears, but their voices pushed into her heart. They were once like her, dreamers who wanted too much. Now they were nothing. The charm in her hand grew cold. She looked at it and realized that it, too, was fading. Her pride, her fear, and her despair were killing its power. For the first time she felt completely alone. Maybe Mama was wrong, she muttered, her voice breaking. Maybe the ancestors have already abandoned me. The river of souls surged louder, as if laughing at her. Faces pressed against the surface, their mouths wide in silent screams. Adis curled into herself, shaking. This was her darkest moment. Orgy raised his staff, pointing it at her chest. Your fire is almost gone. Surrender to me, Adis. Accept that you belong here. She shut her eyes, waiting for the final blow. Her voice, her gift, her soul, felt so far away. All she could hear was Orgy's laughter and the cries of the damned. But then, faintly, another sound reached her ears. Lullaby. Soft, gentle, like the one her mother had sung when she was small. It was not coming from outside, it was coming from within. Adiz's eyes flew open. My voice is not gone. It is still mine. Orgy cannot take it unless I give it. Hope flickered. Small, fragile, but real. She clenched the charm again, even though it was cold, and whispered, "No. My voice is not yours. My soul is not yours. I may be weak, but I will not sing for you." Orgy's smile vanished. His staff shook with fury. The cavern trembled, and the river rose like a giant wave. The trapped souls screamed, stretching their hands toward her as if to drag her down. Adiz stood, though her body shook. Her darkest moment had come, but she realized now that it was also a test. If she gave in, she was lost forever. If she resisted, even in weakness, she still had a chance. And so, surrounded by the roar of the river and the fury of Orgy, Adiz drew a deep breath, ready to fight with the only weapon she had left, her true voice. Adiz stood on the trembling ground, her body weak, her spirit nearly crushed. But deep within her chest, the song of truth still glowed faintly, like a hidden flame refusing to die. Orgy towered above her, his staff crackling with red fire. "Foolish girl," he thundered, his voice shaking the cavern walls. "You think your little song can fight me? I have swallowed kings, queens, and warriors stronger than you. You are nothing but a moth fluttering against the night." Adiz lifted her chin, her voice trembling but clear. "You may have taken many, Orgy, but you will not take me. My gift is not yours. It was given to me for good, not for pride." She closed her eyes and began to sing. Not a song of fame, not the loud and boastful voice she once used to charm crowds, but a simple, honest song, the same lullaby her mother had sung, the same melody that had saved her in the forest. At first, the cavern laughed at her. The walls shook, the river of souls rose high, and Orgy roared with fury. But as she sang, the sound cut through the darkness like light piercing a storm. The trapped souls lifted their heads, their faces softening as if remembering who they once were. The black water shimmered, and the cries turned into murmurs of peace. The charm in Adiz's hand suddenly grew hot again, glowing brighter than before. The cowrie shells clinked together like tiny bells, and feathers sparked with white light. She felt the strength of the ancestors filling her bones. "No!" Orgy bellowed, slamming his staff into the ground. Flames shot up, circling her. "Stop singing. That voice is mine." Adiz opened her eyes, and for the first time, she did not see him as a godlike figure. She saw him as he truly was, a parasite feeding on the greed of others. "You lied to me," she said firmly. "You promised fame, but you only wanted chains. I will not feed you anymore." Her song grew louder. The flames around her flickered and died. The river of souls surged upward, not in rage but in release. The faces of the lost smiled as they rose, one by one, breaking free of Orgy's hold. Their cries turned into a chorus that joined Adiz's song. The cavern walls cracked. Orgy staggered backward, his red eyes dimming. "No. You cannot break what is sealed." Adiz stepped forward, her song shaking the very ground. The charm in her hand burst into pure light, wrapping around her like armor. With every note, Orgy shrank. His tall figure withered, his staff splintered, and his voice cracked into a pitiful scream. "You fed on greed, Orgy," Adiz declared, her voice ringing like thunder. "But you have no power over truth." With one final note, she released her song in full strength. It blasted through the cavern like a storm of light. Orgy shrieked, his body dissolving into smoke, his staff shattering into dust. The ground beneath them split wide, and the river of souls rushed out, vanishing into the night sky. Silence fell. The cavern crumbled, but Adiz remained standing, the light of her charm surrounding her. She had faced the darkness, and for the first time, she truly understood her gift. Her fame had never been the true power. It was her heart, her truth, that held strength. As the cavern collapsed around her, the forest's whispers turned gentle, guiding her back toward the light of dawn. Adiz stepped out of the darkness and into the morning sun. She was scarred, weary, but alive. And though she had survived orgy, she knew her final test was yet to come, to face her people, to sing again, not for glory but for healing. The sun shone brightly as Adiz emerged from the forest of whispers. Her clothes were torn, her body weak, but her spirit glowed with a strength she had never known before. She had faced orgy, she had seen the prison of souls, and she had learned the truth. Her voice was not for vanity, but for truth and healing. When she entered Aitu, the villagers gathered, whispering among themselves. Some still feared her, remembering the chaos at her concert. Mothers clutched their children's hands, and young men shook their heads. Adiz felt the weight of their stares, heavier than any chain. At last Baba Uduak, the eldest, stepped forward. His staff tapped the ground as he looked at her with sharp, knowing eyes. "Child, have you returned as one who still belongs to orgy, or as one who has been freed?" Adiz knelt before him and placed the glowing charm at his feet. "I went into the forest. I saw the prison of souls, faced orgy, and I broke free. My voice belongs to the ancestors, not to him." The people murmured. Some still doubted. "If it is true," one woman said, "then sing. Let us hear. If your voice is clean, we will know." Adiz's heart pounded. She remembered how her voice had once brought screams instead of cheers. But she also remembered her mother's lullaby, and the song that had carried her through the trials. She closed her eyes and began to sing. Her voice was gentle, pure, filled not with pride but with honesty. She sang of the land, of the people, of the beauty of Aitu. She sang of humility, of love, of how greed destroys and truth restores. The effect was immediate. The air grew calm, the trees swayed softly, and even the goats in the fields lay quietly to listen. The villagers' eyes filled with tears. Where once they had felt fear, now they felt peace. Children ran closer, clapping their hands. Mothers smiled. Even the elders bowed their heads, their spirits moved. When she finished, silence filled the air. Then applause erupted, not wild and desperate like the cheers of strangers, but warm, true, and full of love. Baba Uduak raised his staff. "The girl who once sold her soul has returned it to the ancestors. Let this be a lesson to all. Fame gained through darkness is empty. But truth, humility, and love will always shine brighter than pride." From that day, Adiz no longer sought stages in big cities or fame across kingdoms. She sang for her people, for the sick, for the broken, and for the children who needed comfort. Her voice healed instead of harmed. And though she was not known across the world, in Aitu her name was spoken with honor. Her story was told again and again beneath the Irako tree, a warning and a lesson. Never trade your soul for glory. Fame fades, but truth remains forever. And whenever children asked what had happened the night fans ran from her concert, the elders would lean forward and say, "That was the night Adiz learned the greatest song of all, the song of humility."